these 2 weeks. It's been a hard, long case. I've tried a lot of cases in my lifetime. This has been a hard, long case. By the way, it's about an hour each way going to Salt Lake with traffic, so that adds to it. But you've been very attentive. I've seen you taking notes and paying attention. No one nodded off. So thank you again. Now, I'll turn on my... Lawrence and I are going to split this. Let's see here. Nope. By the way, I apologize for my cold. You can't really choose when those come. I've got asthma, and it makes it worse. But I've done everything I can to try to resolve it. Took all the tests. I'm negative for COVID, etc., but it still has plagued me. So I apologize for the coughing. Maybe a little bit more of that. Okay. There are really 3 issues in the case. Number 1, who hit whom? Okay. Number 2, did it cause any damage? Number 3, what are the damages? What are the damages? Now, Gwyneth Paltrow, in this case, is not a liar. Terry Sanderson is not a liar. Okay? Gwyneth is a good person. Okay? She's a good mother, and she loves her children, and she's passionate about many things. Now, we don't usually say good things about other people in our closing, but I think that's an accurate statement. Okay? I think that she believes, and I believe Gwyneth Paltrow when she says she believes. She says, Terry hit me in the back. And she believes it. It's a sincere belief. She's not a liar because of it. Pardon me. But the problem is, a sincere belief doesn't make it so. Now, excuse me. Some of you are skiers and some of you aren't. Okay. Pardon me. When you're involved in a ski crash, it can be very confusing. I don't care who hit whom. It can be very confusing. So I think she sincerely believes that she got hit in the back. The problem is, you have to make a decision based on the evidence that you've heard here. Okay, on the evidence. Now, let me tell you, to illustrate this, about something that happened to me about 1.5 years ago. Okay? We live in downtown Salt Lake, and we use that Costco, or shop at that Costco, on 17th South and 3rd West. Some of you have probably been there. It's the largest one in the world. Okay?
We are having a hard time hearing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Sykes, where's the microphone for that? Is it on your chest?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not turned on.
Oh,
I'm picking it up, but it is just so faint in the room.
It says on.
I know, I mean, I'm picking it up just fine on for the record, but no one else can
Let me
hear
use that
you.
one.
Well, maybe put it higher on your lapel.
Let's see here. Is that better?
Oh, here, can you hand it to me? Right, is it on?
Testing?
Okay. So much better.
Sorry about that, folks. I just got gas at Costco. It was about July of 2022. No, 2021. And I was at an intersection. It's a pretty busy intersection. There are 2 lanes, north and south, 2 lanes east and west, 2 each. And there's a left-hand turn lane. I had a red light. Okay. And I was the first one at the intersection. Got a good look at it. I looked in my rear view mirror on my left side, and there's a green arrow for each direction going east and west, turning south and turning north. You understand that? So I'm waiting because I have a red light. And there's a lady across the way from me, car heading west but turning south. She had a green arrow, like I saw one heading north. I looked in my mirror, and here comes a guy at about 40, 45 miles an hour on the inside lane of 17 South. I said, my goodness, he's going to hit that woman. He's making that turn. And sure enough, smacked her and smacked her hard. Okay? Didn't slow down at all. Well, I had a good view of it, and the car spun around, but I was able to get by. There's a Maverick on the southeast corner of that intersection. Okay? I pulled in there, ran to her car, and asked her, are you okay? Like everybody does. She said, yeah, I think so. I didn't think she was, looking at her. But she said she was okay. Okay? So I ran over to the other guy. I was the first one there. Some people were beginning to stop. And the guy that ran the red light said, are you okay? He said, yeah, I think so. I said, well, why'd you run the red light? You know what his answer was? I didn't. It was green. Well, I wasn't going to sit there and argue with a guy like that, under those circumstances. But he said it was green. So when the police came a couple minutes later, and you got to be careful as an attorney, I gave them my card, not to get the case. You can't do that, be unethical, but let people know who I was so they could call me. Get a cop a card, and I gave each of the persons a card. And about several months later, I started getting calls from insurance adjusters wanting me to tell what happened. And I tell you that story because so often people that are in these types of events have a totally different viewpoint. So we don't hold anything against Gwyneth for her viewpoint. It's sincerely expressed, but she's wrong based on the evidence. Okay? And Terry's correct. Now, what's the evidence that Gwyneth hit Terry? Okay. Number one, and there's no particular order on this, but Terry's a strong skier, advanced intermediate. Mr. Christensen said he saw him going down the hill doing wide radius turns. That's side to side, all the way, back and forth. Now, on a beginner's run, that's highly unlikely for an advanced skier. You don't do that. You don't do that. There's too many people. And so that doesn't make sense. Number two, I'll call it the scream heard around the world. Okay? This is being broadcast everywhere, by the way. It's on court TV. I'm getting emails every day from Canada, Great Britain. There's a loud scream. Terry heard it. Loud scream. Craig Ramone heard it and looked over. Several other people heard it. Carrie Oakes said she heard it. Peter Christensen heard it, so caused him to look over. It's before the impact. And you don't, if you're the downhill skier, like Gwyneth claims she was, you don't scream at something you can't see. You don't. It's the uphill skier that's going to make that scream. And that was Gwyneth Paltrow. Distraction. Everybody here probably been a parent. Most of you not, some of you maybe. But I've had my kids up there, and they want me to watch them ski. And mommy wants to ski. Now, Carrie Oakes said that, and that the deposition segment that you read said that 3 times. Okay? 3 times. And that's important. Can we show Gwyneth's deposition up here?
Your Honor, what are we talking about here?
Mr. Sykes, is this deposition testimony that was read into court?
Yes. Exactly.
And is it only deposition testimony?
Only
that was, okay.
Deposition, meaning trial testimony?
Well, it was read into court.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Sure. You could make the screen only show the part that was
I'm
actually
trying to
read
do
in
that.
court.
Is that okay, Judge, like that?
That looks good.
Okay. Now, Ms. Paltrow, isn't it true? Isn't it true? I'm just a country lawyer here. Okay? Isn't it true? Let's see if I can move it over a little bit. Okay? That your kids wanted to watch you ski. Or, pardon me, that the kids wanted you to watch them ski. Isn't that true? Vegas the time. I can still watch my children ski and be skied directly into my back by someone. Okay? Which is what happened. Now I'm going to omit Mr. Owen's statement and my own, and here's how it reads. Isn't it true that your kids wanted to watch you ski? Or, pardon me, that the kids wanted you to watch them ski? I can still watch my children ski and be skied directly into my back by someone, which is what happened. Now, there's an eyewitness, and Craig Ramon. We thought about having him testify again today about those drawings, but we decided not to do it. But he saw the whole thing. He saw the impact. And he's the only one that saw it. That's a key piece of evidence. Now, who is Craig Ramon? He's an acquaintance of Terry. He's part of a meetup group. He's not close to Terry. They went to get garlic burgers twice. Okay. He has no dog in the fight, ladies and gentlemen. No dog in the fight. He's independently wealthy. You can tell that by what he does.
Your Honor, that assumes facts not in evidence.
Well, it's
Just a minute. Objection overruled. The jury will have to recall what the evidence was. And
the evidence was he sold his business, I don't know, 10 years ago, and all he does now is ski and travel and scuba dive. Okay? He has no reason, no motive to falsify this. Okay? Confirmation, those meetup emails that you saw. There was one of the last evidence, I think it was 44, was it? I won't go over it with you. But we printed that out, I think, Saturday or Monday. It gives you the number of days since it was entered. And you add those up, you go right back to February 26th, 27th, 28th, around there. Strong evidence. Terry has repeatedly said to his medical providers that he was hit in the back over a period of years. And that he has problems, medical problems from it. The broken ribs, that's one of the strongest pieces of evidence you have, that Terry was the guy that was hit. He was the downhill skier. Okay? 4 broken ribs, 2 of them separated like that, weren't together. And that's very serious, it's very painful. But the pattern of those broken ribs, 2 MDs, one from Utah and Dr. Bain, so that pattern of broken ribs supports the fact that he was hit from behind. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details of that. That's what he said. And Dr. Bain, who just testified again today, said that Dr. Schur was simply wrong in his philosophy, or his formula. He assumed it was a free fall, and it wasn't a free fall. Broken ribs. How do you get that without a significant impact? Now, the flaky Deer Valley investigation, I think, suggests a cover-up. Eric Christensen, I think, was unbelievable and inconsistent. And there were a number of things. I'm not going to go over each one of them, but I will talk about one. The claim that Terry said he was okay. Now, some of you have probably had broken ribs or loved ones that have had them, you know. Even Steve Graff up here said it's extremely painful. Now, this whole process took place between 11:55, which is the time of Graff's incident report, and 12:02, when Ramon flagged down the ski patrol, and 12:04 when Whitney Smith arrived. So we're talking about 7 to 9 minutes, okay? And they would have you believe that a man with 4 broken ribs, 4, 2 separated, told not only Eric Christensen that he was okay, but 2 other unnamed, unidentified ski patrollers that never logged it in. He told them he was okay. Now that's just unbelievable that that would happen to a person with 4 broken ribs. Not just 1, but 4. Ski between the legs. I don't know how many of you are skiers. I don't remember. You said it in your interviews 3 weeks ago, but to have someone ski between your legs, he thought it was a sexual assault. Okay? But to have someone with both skis, to someone that's moving and shooshing back and forth, it's just another unbelievable claim. That can't happen. Now, and then Gwyneth skis away to lunch. The only way that Terry Sanderson knew that this was Gwyneth Paltrow is Christensen got angry and said, "Your buddy just took out Gwyneth Paltrow," which is an odd comment to make. Like, just took out a person, you know, but he had to put in Gwyneth Paltrow. That's the only way we know that. That's why you're here. Now, causation. Did this event cause an injury? Well, I've already mentioned this. The impact was significant enough to break 4 ribs. You know, the impact in the fall. That is a significant impact. The location, the right front, is where you would expect it under the circumstances. Loss of consciousness. You know, it was only a few minutes, maybe 2, maybe 3. But there was a loss of consciousness widely reported in the medical records and that day. Widely reported. I mentioned the okay. I don't want to mention that again. So, it was significant enough at the time. The very first thing that anybody noticed was that Terry forgot how to ski. He was snow plowing down the hill, an advanced intermediate snow plowing down the hill. Think about that for a minute, you know. And Craig Ramon says, "Hey Terry, you forgot how to ski," and that's when Craig Ramon said, "I got to flag someone down." So he did, and he told that person, "He's got a head injury." That's the words he used, a head injury. Now, it took him 5 seconds, and Craig acted it out up here. 5 seconds to be able to tell him his name. He didn't know where he was at first. That's a significant impact. That's a concussion. Now, ski patrol flag down at 12:02. Whitney Smith arrives. What a sweet person. And Terry's taken off the hill in a toboggan. Now, that's no fun, but it shows you something happened. She disoriented, rib pain, loss of consciousness. By the way, Alina Fong, who treats thousands and thousands and thousands of TBI victims, said loss of consciousness is not required. Okay? Not required. Headache. And that day, I think at the clinic in Park City, dullness in the front of the head. And Whitney Smith said, go to the ER. And Dr. McMahon said, go to the ER. So the next several months, you have numerous symptoms of TBI that show up in the VA records. Cognitive, personality, social, and emotional. I could go through and show them to you, but you all saw them. But then, one of the most significant pieces of evidence here is a sudden and precipitous change in Terry Sanderson. Sudden and precipitous, okay? Now, I'm not talking about when he came home and Carlene, said he didn't want to be touched. He's got 4 broken ribs. But Carlene, who loved him, said it was a love relationship. She wanted to marry him. They've been together 300 days a year up here and then down there in St. George for about a year and a half. It's a long time to look at someone. She loved him. She traveled with him. She wanted to marry him. And you saw how she choked up when she explained how the relationship ended, that he changed. His personality changed. Polly Gresham, Shay Hareth, same thing. Big changes. They didn't see him as often. So that sudden and precipitous change is a sign of brain injury. Diagnosis of concussion. The VA diagnosed it. Multiple physicians diagnosed it. All the defense experts admitted it. Every one of them admitted it. They minimized the extent of it, but they all admitted he had a concussion. Every one of them. Every one of them. Dr. Gibby, Dr. Fong, Dr. Goldstein, Dr. Bing. The only question was severity and permanency. But every one of them, they didn't want to admit it, but they gave different numbers, between 5 and 20% of people that get a concussion. It's permanent. They have permanent problems. 5 and 20% between that. Dr. Fong thinks it's higher than that even. Now, the physics. Dr. Boehm explained the physics, I think, second day of trial, and a little bit today. But he's a neurologist, but he's also a biomedical engineer. That's different than Dr. Scher. He's a biomechanical engineer. But Dr. Boehm specializes in how force affects the body. Very highly respected in that field. That's very rare, not very many of them. Terry talked about the loss of friendships. Mark Harath, good example. They were good buddies, went skiing, and didn't like him anymore. He talked about excuse me, the woman that he was going to Europe with. Don't remember her name, you remember it, but she changed her mind at the last minute and had an empty seat. That's how Jenny got to go. The experience of his granddaughter, turning into her for how to tie a knot. Big changes. Craig Ramon said Terry, after the accident, seemed like he could talk to the wall for an hour and have a good conversation. Faking. Every witness you heard from the defense admitted that Terry was not faking, malingering, exaggerating, or magnifying his symptoms. And Dr. Goldstein said there are tests embedded in his tests to find that. No evidence of that at all. And by the way, the VA records continue up until the present day. And they didn't show you any single VA record where that was ever suggested of this man. NPH. They suggested, that could, it's the normative, what is it called again?
Normal pressure hydrocephalus.
Normal pressure hydrocephalus. He's got it, but no symptoms. And it didn't change over about a 13-year period. 2009 to 2021. Dementia, they kind of implied that maybe he's got that, but when we cornered them on cross-examination, not a one of them said he had dementia. And there's no reference in these thousands of pages of records to any diagnosis. Degradation of imaging. Okay, we have imaging, I think, from 2009 to 2021, and all the defense experts, plus our own, said there's no degradation on these imaging. He's got white matter abnormalities. Probably half of us do. Nothing showed in there. No problems. No increase. You heard that just as recently as yesterday. Now, I'm going to say just a few more things here in terms of time over to my colleague, Lawrence Bueller. This is actually his case. He asked me to help. That day when Terry left his home to go skiing at Deer Valley, that meetup group, February 26, 2016, he anticipated, like many, many other days in his life, a fun day of skiing. Okay? And he never returned home that night as the same Terry. He never came home, figuratively speaking. Terry has tried to get off that mountain, but he's really still there. Part of Terry will forever be on the bandana run, figuratively. People who are just after money, and that was suggested. He's just after money and fame. Somehow going through all of this and spending all the money he spent on experts, he's doing it for fame. Give me a break. But he spent hours and hours trying to get better. If you heard anything about him, he is almost, what's a good word? Extreme in trying to get better. He does everything he can to get better. Anyway, we hope that you will help bring Terry home off that mountain with a fair verdict today. Now, before I turn it over to Lawrence, I want to say one more thing about executive function. Okay? I had an experience up here that taught me about that. 40 years ago, I was in the legislature with a guy named Glenn Brown. I think he's still alive. He's in Colville, has a dairy farm, or did. And I used to kid him about milking cows, So he invited me up to his farm. Young lawyer, going to show me how to milk cows. Never done it. Got up there, and he showed me around his barn. It was really sophisticated. 40 years ago. I mean, it's probably better now. But when you think about why Terry never came home, think about this story in executive function. Because he put a little stool out there for me, and I sat down in my jeans and tried to milk a cow by hand. It's very hard to do for a country boy like me. I grew up in the city. But I was able to squeeze out a little bit of milk, He gave me some to take home. Glenn Brown's a great guy. But I asked him about this situation. I said, how do you do all this? He showed me this very sophisticated situation that milks cows automatically. Does it automatically. He says, without this, Bob, I could never make it. Couldn't do it. Can't get enough people to come help me do it by hand, like my grandpa did. That's executive function. That's what it does for us. We're able to do a lot of things in life. And that milking mechanism was executive function for Glenn Brown's farm to produce milk. Now, this is one of Terry's saddest problems, his loss of executive function. Okay. He cannot organize and manipulate his life to do things like he used to do. It's the saddest thing. And that's why part of him is still up there on that mountain. Thank you. Lawrence?